The Rebel Capitalist Show.
You know, I've listened to several of your podcast episodes, and I know you're really a student of history, which is just fantastic. I remember you used to start every single episode by saying, well, let's go back in time and just tell a story from, 200 or 300 years ago that would be applicable to what we're seeing today. I mean, and you know a lot more about history than I do. If you were to look at what we experienced in the United States in 2020 or what we're experiencing now, is there any precedence for that in to your knowledge throughout history, or is this just a
Of course,
completely new game?
of course, of course, of course. It's funny because not everything is, everything is just a repeat of stuff that's already happened before.
Right.
There's no original idea. There's no, everything is just really, a little bit of a remix in a way. We take our new stuff and we mix it with the old stuff. But I mean, these sorts of, everything, wars, revolts, revolutions, social conflict, cultural wars, all these things that they just happen so many times. And one of the things that you heard a lot, especially last summer, is people said, "Oh, it's 1968 all over again," and I would say, actually, it's closer to 1568. And the one that I always felt was kind of a more appropriate comparison to sort of what was happening was the Dutch Revolt that took place in the 1500s, and it lasted an incredibly long time. And this is what I always kind of tell people: this was an 80-year conflict. Now, the world moved a lot slower than it does today. We have planes and internet and Twitter and all this kind of stuff now that they didn't have back then. So this is 80 years of conflict, and it was a revolt really between Catholics and Protestants, and it was all the same sorts of things. People going down and ripping down statues and monuments, and people out in the streets setting things on fire. Private businesses and people's homes that had nothing to do with any of the conflict weren't even on one side or the other. People were just getting ensnared into this. There was all sorts of political folly. Debts and deficits were going through the roof. The economic consequences of all these things. And along the way, they had a couple of plagues over the 80-year period, and so you sort of look at this and you go, we've been here before. And the thing that, like, people ask me a lot, and they go, they say, two questions I always think are cute is people say, like, what do you think is the best objective source of information? And I always say, like, who said there was an objective source of information? I mean, they're like, everybody has a bias. Everybody's got some way they feel. The only difference is, like, some people are more honest about it.
Right.
You can't watch the media and expect guys are really being objective of anything, because they have opinions too. They just pretend that they're transparent and objective. But the other one is related, especially to COVID. And people say, well, when do you think this is going to go back to normal? And I thought, whoever promised anything about normal? Whoever said that, except, the politicians would say that, right? Politicians that promise return to normalcy, which is also something that we've seen before. There were a lot of people saying that after World War I. After World War I, not only did they have major world war, they started moving off the gold standard. We had the Federal Reserve, was still very new. We had, economic problems with the currency, market panics, and the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
And people were just sick of it. They were so sick of it. And they said, and so the politicians promising return to normalcy, in the late 19-teens and early 1920s, that was the thing that everybody wanted to hear, and the thing that everybody wants to hear today. But it never goes back to normal, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Normal. Return to normal and staying normal in a way means that there's actually never progress. And sometimes, progress it is true. Progress is messy. And sometimes, there are, there's some really messy things that happen in the course of that. And I think COVID was actually very interesting in that respect, because I always try and look at the bright side of things. I think COVID did a lot of horrible things. When we look at government overreach, and the trillions upon trillions of dollars that was spent, massive debt levels, all the money printing. And we can talk about that later if you want. But I think there are a lot of good things, and I think one of the greatest things about COVID, one of the big bits is that for the first time, a lot of people realized, hey, wait a minute, I don't have to be chained to my geography anymore.
Right.
You know, I don't have to be in this town. I don't have to be in this state. I don't even have to be in this country. I could move and go somewhere else. I could go to Puerto Rico and take those tax benefits. I could move overseas. I could move off to the countryside. I could move to the be near my girlfriend and my boyfriend. Whatever it is I've always wanted to do, I can do that stuff now because more and more people now realize that they are actually independent of location. I think that's a very powerful trend because for the longest time it was one of the last, in a way, almost vestiges of the feudal system in a way that people were sort of tethered to the land because they had to be near the office, right? It was sort of a modern day feudal system. It's like, oh, the office in New York City, so I got to be in this, 50 or 100-mile radius or something like that so I can get to work, take the train, have, 3-hour commutes every day, all that sort of stuff. It is almost feudal when you think about it. It's like being medieval peasant. And, it's like you can't really leave. People have the ability to sort of maybe pick up a move and get another job, but they're in the same situation. But now all of a sudden people are like, hey, I can do this from anywhere. I can be in my house. I can be on the beach. I can be wherever. And that, I think, is an incredibly powerful trend for human liberty.
And do you think people realize that they shouldn't be tied to one country specifically? And maybe it made them realize that having a plan B and maybe a second passport is really a good idea.
I think some people are starting to. I mean, it's baby steps, right? So I think some people start realizing, well, I don't have to be here, and that we can see in the data. We can see that in the data of, we can see that in a lot of actually data sets, including real estate prices in New York City, San Francisco, et cetera, and just seeing the number of homes on the market. We can see the trends and among literally moving companies and moving vans. Right. And all these sorts of things. So you can see the trends of like so many people that are leaving and the influx in places like Texas and Florida. I've seen it here out my window, which you can't see. It's a gorgeous view. Take my word for it. There's all day, every day, there's sales tours running all over the place. I mean, this place was, it was very sleepy, very quiet up until probably the summertime. And that was when a lot of people said, okay, I'm out. We're starting to see the images, cities on fire. And people can feel however they want to feel about that whole movement. But, let's at least acknowledge however somebody might feel about the sort of ideology and politics of it, that for a lot of people, might see literally flames out their window. That might be very uncomfortable, especially if you've got kids and family and so forth, and say, you know what, I just want to get out of here. That, in addition to that, obviously being locked down and so forth, and people said, I want to be on a place where I can run around, I can be on the beach. And there was a massive influx of people coming into Puerto Rico. So, and a lot of these people from even California and so forth ended up here. So, that's just a personal anecdote. It's not really a data set, but from what I can tell, the data is actually in the real estate prices here. There's pockets of this in Puerto Rico that a lot of prices, in some respects, are up 50 to even 100%. Literally since last year, it's been insane. And so if people are kind of realize, well, I can leave town, I can leave the state, I can leave the continental US and head to a territory where I get a lot of tax benefits. And I think there's some people that are also starting to realize I can also sort of leave the country entirely. Our data set internally, one of the things that we help our customers with is, we have a lot of different options for people who are interested in passports. And, we've gone and actually met with heads of state and the government bodies in a lot of these countries that offer citizenship to work out a lot of the details and things like that. And there have been, from what they're telling us, we get a lot of that data directly from them. There's been, a spike in people going and applying for things like economic citizenship programs, where you could make an investment or a donation in some capacity and get citizenship in return. And, what we're getting from the government sources there is a substantial increase in applications and issuances of economic citizenship. So I think to your point, yeah, there are definitely a lot of people who are starting to realize, like, I need to, if I'm not ready to get out now, I at least need to be ready. I need to be thinking about it. And that's one of the things we always said is that, if you ever feel like you need to leave, you don't want to start having that conversation. You don't want to start that planning process while you're packing your bags. You know, because if you're doing that, then you're emotional, you're scared, you know, and as human beings, we tend to make very poor decisions when we're emotional, especially when we're scared. So the right thing to do is to think about your circumstances and everything that you want to achieve, the life that you want to have, the lifestyle you want to have, the things that are important to you and what you prioritize in your life. And think about those sorts of things now while you're rational before the proverbial hits the fan. And, you know, that way you'll actually have a much more solid foundation in terms of being able to analyze what the options are and what's good for you and what's not good for you, and be able to sort of plan all that stuff way in advance. It's just a sensible thing to do.